YouTube. It's Sports Vlogs 98 here, back with another sports vlog. Earlier today, I made the video on NBA mock draft. Got me thinking about free agency a little bit, and I knew I wanted to make a video on this for quite some time now, but I just have a lot of extra time today, and I'm kicking this into high gear. In front of me, I have a list of top free agents, and in a notepad, I have a list of free agent locations that I think would work out really well for these players. So, let's kick things off with Mike Conley. If I could find his sheet, here it is. Okay, Mike Conley is an unrestricted free agent of the Memphis Grizzlies. Originally, I would have told you that Mike Conley would be going back to Memphis, but I got to thinking that Mike Conley might want to compete for a ring at some point in his career. So, I got to thinking about that. The Knicks are trying to build a culture over there, a winning culture. And Porzingis and Melo are good centerpieces right now, and Afflalo. I like Aaron Afflalo a lot. But the Knicks are going to need to bring in a few pieces this offseason and through the draft, and maybe next season, and they'll be able to compete. Trust me, the Eastern Conference is not strong. I think Mike Conley could be the first piece of that equation, along with a few other free agents that I'll mention in this video. Now, I'm not ruling out the possibility of Mike Conley returning to Memphis, but it just doesn't seem likely at this point. But similar to the Knicks, another fitting location for Mike Conley seems to be the Los Angeles Lakers. Mike Conley would be able to win in a few years, and he's still young. He has that time to wait. He'd be able to win in a few years, and he would be a huge centerpiece to the Los Angeles Lakers franchise. Next up, I have Rajon Rondo. He's an unrestricted free agent of the Sacramento Kings, and I have him staying with the Sacramento Kings. I think that is a phenomenal fit for Rajon. I saw him in Boston. It's a good place for him. While he may not always get along with the coaching there, it's just a good place for Rajon Rondo to be. Next up, I have Jeremy Lin. He has a player option with the Charlotte Hornets. Jeremy Lin, I think, possibly could opt out of this player option. And one location I really like for Jeremy Lin is Memphis, but that's only if Mike Conley goes elsewhere. But that's a good location. He also definitely could return to Charlotte. And the other location I kind of like is the New Orleans Pelicans. I think he'd be a good starting point guard there. You can move Jrue Holiday to your bench. And Jeremy Lin, I think, would work well nicely. Oh my God. Would work nicely with Anthony Davis. And I think the Pelicans could continue to build, and that would be a good location for Jeremy Lin, who at one time appeared to be a fluke but had a really good season last year with Charlotte. Darren Williams has a player option with Dallas. I could see Darren Williams opting out. I could also definitely see him staying with Dallas. If Darren Williams opted out, I'm not quite sure where he would go. It would seem to be logical that he would go to another location that missed out on a point guard, like the Lakers, or maybe even the Knicks. Just somewhere where they didn't get their top choice, and Darren Williams is like Plan B. And next up, I have Ty Lawson. He's an unrestricted free agent, but he had off-the-court issues last year. And I think if the Bulls are going to if they're really serious about moving on from Derrick Rose, I think that would be a really good location for him. I also like Dallas if Williams isn't there. And I also like the Knicks. If you can get... if you're not going to get Conley, you can get Ty Lawson. Ty Lawson's not a bad player. He may not be the player that you want, but you just build elsewhere instead of your point guard position. And that's fine. You can do that. You don't have to have an all-star point guard. It helps, but you don't need to have the best point guard in the league. Next up, I have DeMar DeRozan, player option with Toronto. DeMar DeRozan, I believe, has already opted out of this as of yesterday. I'm not positive, but I believe he's opted out as of yesterday. For DeMar DeRozan, I think there's 3 landing spots, and only these 3 landing spots. a return to Toronto, or the two Los Angeles teams. I think he would fit really well as a franchise centerpiece with the Lakers, and he would play a really good complementary role in the LA Clippers offense, where the one position they've always seemed to lack is that shooting guard. And I think if DeMar DeRozan can, put together a good, solid offseason where he can work on his jump shot a little bit and his perimeter game, I think that would be an excellent fit with the Clippers as well. Next up, I have Bradley Beal, the restricted free agent of the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal's not going anywhere. If you're Washington, you got to match that offer. And I think he'll stay with Washington. Same thing with Dwayne Wade. He is an unrestricted free agent, however, but I don't see him going anywhere besides Miami. Next up is Jordan Clarkson, restricted free agent. I also see him having a matched offer by the LA Lakers. He is another key piece to this franchise. Next up, I have Evan Turner, unrestricted free agent of the Boston Celtics. Now, I think as a Celtics fan, I would like to see Evan Turner come back, and why I think he could come back, he also could go make money playing for somebody like the Clippers or the Lakers, or playing a complementary role in those locations. All right, we're going to get to some juicy stuff right now with these next two guys. Kevin Durant, unrestricted free agent of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kevin Durant could take a small deal with Oklahoma City and get a max contract the year after. But if he doesn't want to do that, I like Boston and Golden State as really good spots for him. Both would become instant. The Celtics would become an instant championship contender. The Golden State Warriors would absolutely become probably the best team on paper ever. That team would be absolutely insane. But I wouldn't also rule out a return to Oklahoma City on a short-term basis. Next up, LeBron James. He has a player option with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think the final success ultimately depends upon his return or not his return. I think Cleveland's been playing a game with LeBron for his whole career. And right now, LeBron has a chance to bring home a title to Cleveland. But it just may not work out. There's no rule that it has to work out. There's no rule that there has to be a fairy tale ending to this, and that LeBron needs to bring a title to Cleveland. So, but with that being said, the only places I foreseeably can see LeBron are Cleveland and a return to Miami. Those are the only two places. Next up, I have Harrison Barnes, restricted free agent, Golden State, and that's where he'll be staying. Golden State should most definitely match Harrison Barnes' offer. Chandler Parsons has a player option with Dallas, but I believe that even if he opts out of that, he should stay with Dallas. Next up, I have unrestricted free agent Nick Batum of the Charlotte Hornets. Locations I like for Nick Batum are a return to Charlotte or Boston. And it may seem like a lot of my locations are Boston for these players, but that's because they're good fits, and Boston is just missing a few key players. It has nothing to do with my hometown bias. It's just that it's very widely regarded by NBA analysts that Boston is a piece or two away from competing for an NBA championship. So I think Nick Batum could significantly help that. I need to grab a tissue again. Sorry, guys. And then as a little side note, I have Luol Deng. He's an unrestricted free agent, but I think that Miami is a good place for Luol Deng to stay. A few more juicy players, actually. Unrestricted free agent Al Horford. I have 4 locations for Mr. Horford, actually. I could see Al with a good fit in Houston, a good fit with Boston, a return to Atlanta, or Portland. And I really like Portland as a fit for Al Horford to go along with C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. I think, actually, I don't see Al Horford returning to Atlanta right now. Next up, I have Pau Gasol, who has a player option with Chicago. Places that I like for Pau Gasol are, I think he fits well in Chicago, but he's getting up there in age. His price is a little much. So I don't think Chicago would continue this. Memphis, maybe, a return to Memphis. Also, Dallas. Not a bad fit for a short-term playoff run. Obviously, Dallas is going to try and build their franchise around two power forwards in their mid to late 30s. But for a short-term playoff run, Pau Gasol's a good spot in Dallas. Speaking of aging power forwards in Dallas, Dirk has a player option this year. But I don't see anything coming of that. I see that Dirk stays in Dallas. Same thing with Tim Duncan. He's going to stay in San Antonio. If he doesn't retire, would not surprise me if Tim Duncan retired. He's definitely getting up there in age, and you don't know what's going to happen, Next, I have Ryan Anderson, power forward of the Pelicans. He's an unrestricted free agent, and I could see Ryan Anderson with Orlando replacing Channing Frye out there, who's a good player, and Ryan Anderson, similar skill set. Also, the Detroit Pistons would be a good landing spot for Ryan Anderson. Last year, Detroit traded away or lost Greg. I think they lost him in free agency, Greg Monroe. So that would be a good spot. The center class this year is phenomenal. Drummond, Whiteside, Dwight Howard, Al Jefferson, Joakim Noah, Bismack Biyombo, all free agents. Okay, let me see here. Start with Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard has a player option in Houston, which I foresee him opting out of for sure. I like a return to Orlando for Dwight Howard, where he can go do his own thing. He would be the primary focus there. You'd have Oladipo and Howard, and maybe if they can get Ryan Anderson, and boom, that's a good team right there. And then you've got young players coming up like Mario Hezonja and what the hell's that guy's name? I don't know why it escapes me right now. Shit. Can't think of it. Also, I like the Milwaukee Bucks for Dwight Howard or Dallas, because Dallas has always been in dire need of a center for these last few years. They got fucked over in the DeAndre Jordan thing, pardon my French. And Dallas would be a good spot for Dwight Howard too. But the most logical one I actually see there is Milwaukee for Dwight Howard. Next up is restricted free agent Andre Drummond. I see Andre Drummond staying put with Detroit. Same thing with unrestricted free agent Hassan Whiteside. I see him staying put in Miami. Free agent Al Jefferson is kind of in a similar position to what Darren Williams is in. Al Jefferson isn't a bad player, but he's kind of more of a plan B option right now for a franchise, especially with this thick of a center class. Joakim Noah, I think, has good fits with the Knicks, Minnesota, and Portland. I like all those spots for Joakim Noah. Minnesota with the reuniting with Tom Thibodeau, and in New York he has a good relationship with Phil Jackson, and I just think Portland could, simply use him, and he wouldn't have to carry as much of a load out there with Plumlee, and, maybe if they could set up a good front court rotation, Joakim Noah would be in a better position. And last but not least, player option Bismack Biyombo of the Toronto Raptors. I believe he will opt out of that. I like him with the Lakers. I like him with the Mavs. I like him with the Knicks or Portland. All four of those teams could use a center. I think Bismack Biyombo is not as good as his playoff stats may have indicated, but he deserves to get paid. He deserves to go be a center somewhere. He may not be an all-star center, but he's not a bad center. And people knew that when he came into the league, but he was just getting his feet wet almost, and he's finally seemed to get it figured out. So I think those four landing spots are also good for Bismack Biyombo. I'm SportsFlag98. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my decisions or have any other possible locations for people in the comments down below. I'll definitely read them and check them out. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.